Hi, man.
Hey man, how you doing? Sorry about the wait.
No worries, no worries. I appreciate you for taking the time out for this.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for requesting it, and thank you for the time. I know we're going through some crazy moments right now in our world, but we're trying to stay positive, trying to stay focused, and stay grinding.
Exactly. I was just telling everyone, like the last time that you and I met in person, this was in Vancouver. This was a couple years back, and it's
Yeah.
like you've always been on the road. You're always doing shows, and like right now, it's just a weird time. You're not really doing a lot of shows. Like, how's that period been like for you?
Well, it's been strange, man. Just like you said, it's been strange. It's been very odd. Being home more often is kind of weird.
Yeah.
The traveling obviously has diminished to almost 100%.
hmm
Luckily, I still go to LA because I'm in San Diego, so LA
Right.
is not too far
hmm
from me, so I'm still able to drive and work on some sessions. Shout out to all the fans that are watching us right now. Shout out to
Yeah.
everybody who tuned in. I know I'm a little late, and
It's okay.
but I'm here. I made it. I made it.
hmm
But yeah, it's been kind of a different um, form of life, I should say. And
Yeah.
I can't wait to get back to the concerts. I can't wait to get back to the people. I can't wait to get back to the traveling, the touring, and perform. All the songs that they love. That the fans have known me from since day one.
Yeah. And you know what I love about you, Frankie, is like on occasion I'll click on your Instagram live just to see what you're up to, and probably about 99.9% of the time you're in the studio, you're working, you're creating, like, and this goes beyond just like during the pandemic, you're always in the studio. Like, and for an artist that's been doing it for so many years, like what keeps you so motivated to keep going?
Well, I think the music, for the most part, for me, has been one of has kept me positive. It's kept me staying very optimistic. The music aspect, and just also, my family. My family keeps me on my toes. I mean, my son and I have a lot in common. My son is 19 years old. He's about to turn 20,
Right.
September 30th. And we used to call him Little Frankie. He's not Little Frankie anymore.
Right.
But him and I kind of push each other, when it comes to working in the studio. Like he'll be like, "Hey, hey, Dad, hey, Frankie, hey, Dad, are you working today? Are you in the studio? Because if you're not, I'm gonna be in there." I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." So we kind of we're going back and forth with the studio, and it's cool to see him, um, working on music, and that inspires me. So I
Right.
think that's been helping me a lot to go and feel inspired and go into the studio and work
Right.
on new songs and work on new projects.
Right. What's kind of your mind frame now in 2020 when music has changed so much since when you first started? Are you looking to make music that's more current? Are you sticking with what you're known for? Like I just clicked on the latest post that you made on Instagram. You had a
Hmm.
record on there. That's a great record, by the way. But like,
Thank you.
how are you approaching music now?
I'm still trying to stay to myself. I think what's helped me in my career and throughout my years of being in this industry is just of being who you are, being
Yeah.
real, being yourself, and doing what you have been known to do since day one. So the thing with me and trends,
Yeah.
they don't mix well.
Mm.
They don't mix well. I like to, especially when it comes to R&B,
Yeah.
and when it comes to the songwriting part. For me, it's very important to keep myself in my own lane and not
Yeah.
try to do something that I'm not, as opposed to trying to do what the new wave of music is and what sounds and stuff like that are playing on the radio. Um, I try to work on original um, production.
Right.
When it comes to the songwriting, I like to kind of still keep it about love.
Yeah.
And what's really most important about the songwriting, is writing about, the relationships, stuff
hmm
that's so real, and stuff that is, relevant in our day and age, and what really makes people want to hear your song, and it's always about those relationship songs, you know, the heartbreak,
Yep.
um, the love, the you know, those kinds of songs that just really want to make you put your ear into it, you know what I mean, and your heart at the same
Yeah.
time. Listen to it with your heart. That's what I always say. Don't just listen to music with your ears. Always listen to it with your heart as
Right.
well. You know.
Yeah. And that's kind
So
of one of the things that we always got from your music is just that feeling. You know, you can listen to a song and you can relate to it so much. Like I remember uh when your first single came out
don't
and
want to
Don't Want to
try.
Try and just like the impact that that had on me. That was like 2002, 2003. So I was like 13 at the
Yeah,
time.
you're right. You
And
know what?
and
You're probably one of the few that gets it right as far as the years, because it came out
yeah.
at the very end of 2002.
Yeah, I mean, take me back to because I know prior to that you were in a group and just that transition, breaking out as a solo artist with that record. Like, did you know that that record would be that big?
No, I never, you know, when it came down to the writing and you know, and the ideas, the concepts that I was coming up with at the time, you know, or even let alone today, like you just don't know what's going to be
Yeah.
bigger now. You just do it because you're having fun in the studio. You know, for me, when I was in the Cumbia Kings and the boy band,
Hmm.
you know, we were doing so much traveling to Mexico, and we were doing a lot of the, you know, Mexican traditional music,
Right.
but at the same time keeping some English, you know, songs in our mix of shows
Yeah.
and even in our albums. Because I've always been a big R&B lover since the
Yeah.
start, since the very
Hmm.
beginning, and
Yeah.
that's always been my thing. You know, and so I think, you know, at the time I was doing so much writing for the group on the English songs that I felt like I needed to do something for myself, you know,
Yeah.
while I was there. And I started buying equipment, you know, from the
Hmm.
money that I was making while I was in the group. I was buying equipment. I was learning how to, you know, how to produce, and you know, going into the production stuff.
Yeah.
And one time, man, I was home, you know, in my one bedroom apartment. I always say this, in Corpus Christi, while I was still with the band.
Mm.
And I remember being in front of this piano. It was called the Roland X V88. You know, I still remember because I still have it.
Wow.
And I right then and there, I got in front of the piano and I started learning how to play Tender Love.
Mm.
And from that moment, I started playing around with the chords. And I was going through a very tough point in my life at the time. And I started writing about what was just coming out of my heart. And
Mm.
I was having so much fun writing it and
Wow.
not knowing what it was going to turn out to be. Um, but I remember hearing the final product when I did it with a very good friend of mine named James Galvez, who helped me in the production and in the arrangement. When I heard what he had done with the music, I was blown away. I was like, wow, this sounds amazing. This is good. You just know, you know, not that you know that when a hit is born, but you know when
Yeah.
something feels right.
Yeah.
So that's how it went down.
Yeah, because a song like that, that's just you and the piano. There's not all these
I
crazy
mean,
sounds that producers try to
basic
aim for.
chords.
Yeah, it's basic chords.
Basic chords.
Yep.
That's basically the whole song, with the exception of, you know, which is the pre-chorus going
Yep.
right back into the chorus. It's basically four chords, five or six chords. That's it. That's the whole song.
Yeah. And then when you have a chorus like "Don't Want to Try No More," like it doesn't get any realer than you not wanting to try anymore.
Yeah, you're like, I'm done. You know, at
Yeah.
the time I was listening to a lot of Jagged Edge.
Mm.
Baby, I promise that I'll be true. You know what I mean? Like those songs were so inspiring to me at the time. This was probably late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a lot of Donnell Jones.
Wow.
Where I wanna be. I mean, I was listening to so many styles
Yeah.
of on the R&B side. I was listening, you know, because there is a lot of different styles within R&B. You know,
Yeah.
of course, the artists that are, you know, writing their own, you know, singer songwriter type of stuff. And So I was listening to everything, man. Casey and Joju.
Wow.
obviously Jodeci,
Mhm.
Drew Hill. So all those sounds and all of those songs were super inspiring me when it came down to the writing. So don't want to try. I don't know if maybe it's just me,
Yeah.
but don't want to try. Has I wanted to do something kind of like Jagged Edge, but
Mm.
it turned out to basically me being, that I created my own sound,
Yeah.
out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was really, really cool.
Yeah. And I mean, you just mentioned so many great R&B people, but like I got to give you props for this. I was clicking on your Instagram story, I think it was yesterday, and you
Hmm.
shared that you were listening to Frankie, not Frankie J, but just Frankie. If you know
Right.
that Frankie album, you're a diehard R&B fan.
Hey, a lot of people don't know about Frankie. A
Hmm.
lot of people don't know about that artist. And
Yeah.
that artist was someone that I was listening to a lot when I was very much into the whole neo soul sound and the R&B,
Yeah.
sound that was very impacting, for me at such a young age. And I was probably, but, maybe like 18 years old, 17 years
Right.
old, listening to this album. And I remember the album, it was called My Heart. That
Yeah.
was the name of the album.
Yeah.
And he had a song called "If I Had You." If I had you,
Yeah.
whatever you want, I will be. It's just an amazing album. He had a
Yeah.
lot of great songs. So yeah, that's an album that inspired me.
Yeah, amazing. So let's get into the one album. This is one that, even before you got on this live, a lot of people love this album. How to Deal, of course, is on this album. And this album, I feel like it really showcased your R&B side. I think
Right,
the first album had a little bit more of a crossover sound. This was just
right.
strictly R&B, really to your core. You worked with B. Cox, Mario Winans. I mean, just take me back to that album.
When we started working on the album, the one, I think the very first song that came out of that album, a lot of people don't know, was a song called "On the Floor."
Yep,
And that song was produced by Bryan-Michael Cox, written by yours truly and Brian.
yep,
And we were going through an experimental moment at that time, because this was the very first time outside of What's a Man to Do, my first album as a solo artist, to have actually worked with, a producer that was so deeply rooted in this R&B sound.
right,
And of course, he was working with Jermaine Dupri. I'm
yep,
talking about Bryan-Michael Cox. He had produced a lot of big records for, Usher. And I want to say he was doing, more than anything, it was the Usher project, I think.
yep,
Um, but, going in the studio with Bryan-Michael Cox was what changed the game for me, and
mm,
how it introduced me to a much more higher level of R&B.
right,
And so "On the Floor" was the very first song written for the album, the one, and it was the very first single before
wow,
Obsession. It was the very first single, and we did this basically independently, although I was signed to Columbia, Sony.
okay,
Um, and the reason that I say this is because when we first started with that record, the label was not
mm,
really feeling it as a first single. They're like, well, we're just going to go ahead and wait until he comes up with another idea. But my manager was so like on fire. He was like, you know what? Screw this. We're going to go and just do it ourselves.
right,
So the first thing he goes, we're going to need money.
mm,
So I said, of course. So he goes, do you have $10,000 that you can use for this project, for this single? And I'm like, yeah, I guess I can use some of my own pocket money.
right,
And that was my very first time experiencing the fact that, you needed that money to work radio.
yeah,
It was my first time experiencing that for my own self as
right,
an entrepreneur, as a learning, as a student in this industry.
right,
So, and that's where we went with it. We ended up taking that song to radio, and believe it or not, with $10,000, we got that song to top 40. We were in the top 40
wow,
rank,
wow,
due to the fact that my manager also knew a lot of, relationships, had a lot of relationships at radio, because he used to work radio for, I
mm,
think, 3 cities in the United States.
wow,
And so, obviously it was featuring Paul Wall. Paul
yeah,
Wall was doing some big things at the time. And so, we went for it. We got it to top 40, and then the label was like, "Wait, guys, what are you guys doing? You know, you guys are doing this by yourself? How in the world?" Well, we did it, and we got the attention from the record label. So then that's when they went in and said, "Okay, let's start working this album. Let's put Frankie in the studio with many other, you know, producers and see what we can come up with." And then that's when Obsession later came around. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of how labels work, right? Like they think they know best, but then when you do something and it works, they're like, wait, we want a part of this too.
That's the story of our lives, man. That's the
Yeah.
story of our lives. You know, that's the way it goes. That's the way the cookie crumbles. I
Hmm.
mean, you can't blame them because at the same time, like, yes, it makes you, you know, just get sometimes it makes you discouraged, you
Yeah.
know, of the business of the industry. Yes, it puts a little bit of a bitter sweet taste in your mouth when it comes to, you know, the major labels, but they have the deep pockets. They have the money to be able to put into your project and to make it a success. So when you start giving them quality music, then it's a lot easier for them to work your project. So now going fast forward um, to Obsession,
Yeah.
we are in the midst of still working on the album. You know, me and Bryan-Michael Cox are in the studio. We're working on other stuff. I'm in Atlanta, going back and forth, Texas, LA, Atlanta, and New York, I believe.
Okay.
And then, you know, I get a phone call from, you know, my manager, Charles Chavez, telling me, "Hey, man, I think we might have your official first single for the album,
Mm. Yeah.
because we found a record that was the style of bachata, believe it or not,
Yeah.
and it's a Spanglish song that was uh, sang by a group called Aventura." And I had met these guys on my very first promo run when I was
Mm.
promoting Don't Want to Try,
Yeah.
and the first album, What's Samantha too. So I already knew who they were. Um, so then he says, "It's a song called Obsession, and we're going to give it to you. And you're going to, you know, you're going to do it in your style with that whole R&B pop fusion."
Right.
He goes, "But we're going to get Happy Perez to produce it. So you guys get together, listen to the song, let me know, you know, what you think." So when I heard the song, it didn't really wow me. It was just like, okay, this is a bachata song. How
Hmm.
are we going to do this in a R&B pop, you know, way?
Right.
So, you know, we took it to Happy. Happy, you know, is a very rock influenced producer. He
Yeah.
loves rock. So he took a crack at it, and it was way too rockish. It was like super like fast, and, you know, with the heavy guitars. And, you know, I went back and I said, "Man, you know, I don't know if it's gonna work." I go, "What if you were to just kind of slow down on these guitars, make it more open, you know, as far as the track, so that I can hear myself singing a song like this?"
Right.
And so he went back into the studio and took out all the crazy heavy guitars. I don't know if you noticed, but on the production, on the original single Obsession,
Yeah.
there's a guitar that's like dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 like it just keeps doing that throughout the whole verse and the
Yeah.
song, right? So that was the only guitar that he kept as far as rhythmic goes. And when he did that and left the production a little more open, I was like, "This is it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sing this. You know, I'm gonna
Right.
do it. I'm gonna do it right." And that's how it all came about. So he produced it, and you know, we did our thing with it.
Yeah, and that song ended up being huge, and like to this day, like no one else can make a song like that other than you. Like that type of rendition, because you have so many different influences, you put it together. Like, what did that song do for your career?
Well, you know, aside from not giving me any publishing on the writing,
Right.
obviously it was a remake, you know, but we did put our own 2 cents, and we were not able to get publishing. We fought for it, believe me, we did.
Right.
But I think for the most part, man, it was literally right after Sugar Sugar, because Sugar Sugar was another single
Yep.
that I had with Bash. So we had Don't Want to Try, we had Sugar Sugar that had gone, you know, super mega,
Huge.
you know, it was a mega hit worldwide.
Yep.
And when Obsession came in, it just catapulted me to the next level
Yeah.
right after Sugar Sugar, because people didn't think that I was going to come up with anything strong or
Right.
stronger than Sugar Sugar. But what we did was we flipped it and put the English and Spanish to it, and we got the
Right.
best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And of course, still kept Bash on the record. And that's why I think a lot of the fans think that we were a duo,
Right. Yeah.
group, because
Yeah.
we've had these two big records together, and we've continued to work throughout the years.
Right.
But when it comes to Obsession, man, I thank God for that record, because it was um, the record that made Columbia
Right.
say, "Let's get this album done."
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, and then they ended up putting the big dollars into the marketing and the promo, and then soon after that they put me with Irv Gotti.
Yeah.
They put me with, again, Bryan-Michael Cox. That's how we came up with How to Deal.
Yeah.
And all these different ideas were brewing, and we were able to finally, get the album done. And of course, even Mario Winans, I can't forget about
Yeah.
Mario. Me and him
Amazing.
went in there and created a song called "Just Can't Say It's Love."
Yeah.
And it was awesome. It was awesome. It was a
Right.
great adventure.
Yeah, that was a great album. Like How to Deal, that record, like just talk to me about the concept of that song, because the one thing I love about your music is that you touch on topics that, may have been talked about before, but you find new ways to talk about them, or you even
Yeah.
touch on topics that no one talks about. Like I can't think of another song like How to Deal. Like that's
Right.
from your perspective. And like,
Yeah.
artists actually come up to me and they're like, yeah, that was a song that I could totally relate to because they're in that same position.
I think before the song was even thought of, I want to say Brian, B. Cox he was the soul, of that song. I think it was more about him kind of going through a situation that he was dealing with at the time. But I also related to that because it was also during the time that I was going through something as well. So,
Right.
the whole vibe of the song, like, I think we started the idea and we did not get to finish it. I want to say we're in Atlanta and or LA, one of those two cities. And we started the concept, we started the whole idea, and then I had to leave because I was doing, I want to say I was doing promo, um, with Obsession. I was doing, back then we were doing, MTV.
Yeah.
Was it the MTV shows that we were always used to doing,
Yeah.
with TRL and
TRL,
everything. So we were all on the run and doing all kinds of different, different things. And then I came back to Houston, and then my manager says, "Hey, I think we ended up getting the full song. All we need to do is just finish the bridge."
Mm.
So I get to hear the actual demo of the record that we had started, and I was blown away. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so dope!" So I loved the whole song.
Yeah.
So then I went in the studio the next day, and I started recording, every from the demo that Brian had recorded. And then I think when I was in the process of the recording, that's when the bridge was sent to
Mm.
me. And then I finished the song right then and there. But it was something that was so amazingly written. And, the whole idea about it was just very unique, although it did have kind of like a burn kind of
Yeah.
vibe to it,
Sure.
with the Usher. But
Yeah.
obviously it's coming from the same producer.
Yeah.
So there was nothing wrong with that. That's the first thing that I noticed when I first heard the production. I was like, wow, this is kind of like part two of Burn or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely another song that has, marked the
Right.
album, the one, as what it is in my career.
Yeah. Amazing record. And I gotta ask about the record that you did with Irv Gotti, because when you think about that on paper, Irv Gotti is like hip hop legend,
Super.
Frankie J, R&B pop. Like, how did you guys merge that? That's the one with Real W on it as well.
That's the one with Adrian Bailon from
Yeah.
3LW. Well, he gave me a bunch of tracks.
Yeah.
Irv Gotti had given me a bunch of tracks while I was in the studio, and we were going through the tracks while we were in the studio, and it was me and my manager. My manager was always kind of, the ears behind, the back of my head. Like, he was always listening to everything while I was listening to it myself in the sessions. and he would be like, yo, I love that. And right away we'd be like, I love that. You know, we both had this connection. So we were going through tracks with Irv, and one thing that caught my attention right away was that da, 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 da,
Yeah.
da, 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 da. I love that sound, and it was so like easy to remember. So I said, I like that track. That's
Mhm.
my favorite track out of all the ones that he's played so far. So then Irv goes, say no more. Let's start working on it.
Wow.
So I went into another room, and it was actually me and him and my manager. My manager actually got 2 words in there. uh, and I actually gave him credit for those 2 words that he put in there on the song. But yeah, I started writing it, and I started coming up with this concept of the one, and I wanted to make it as a duet.
Mm.
And so I started writing it, and Irv was kind of guiding me through it. He was like, "Yo, I want that hook to just, hit you,
Mm.
baby, you're the one for me, you're the one, girl, super fly and so sexy." I just wanted to do something that was fun, but at the same time, something that was going to resonate with the world, with my fan base. And
Hmm.
it just kind of fit like a hand in glove, the track, the melody, the lyrics. And then we brought in Adrian
Yeah.
by loan to fit the duet. So yeah,
Great
Irv
one.
was cool to work with.
Yeah. Legend right there. And then
Yeah.
Frankie, quickly shortly after that, the Priceless album comes out. You're talking about 1 year, you're turning it around, putting out another album. Was that your choice? Was that the label that wanted you to keep going? Like what was that time like?
Well, I had originally signed for 3 albums,
Right.
with Columbia, and that was going to be my third album.
Yeah.
And so we were like, what do we do? Do we wait for a little bit longer? Because we were still, waiting on dates because we were still touring, in the
Yeah.
mid. I'm sorry, while we were in the midst of,
Yep.
of doing this album. My wife was calling me right now, um, and um, and so we were still trying to figure out like, what are we doing? Are we working on a new project? Are we gonna just chill and keep touring? But I think it was more than anything. My manager was like, Frankie, you need to work on a new album. Like we need to get
Mm.
moving. So we started. And I'm trying to think of what was the first song. I think it was That Girl.
It was that girl. Yep.
That Girl was the very first song that we did to kick off the
Yep.
album, and it was my manager's idea to get together with Manny Fresh on this
Mm.
record.
Right.
And so it was kind of a weird kind of connection. It was
Yeah.
like, okay, Frankie J, Manny Fresh, what the heck, why not? Let's go have at it. And but it worked. It
Yep.
was another great um, you know relationship with Manny, and another great session. And it was just fun to see him work because he was so about the beats and the production and the groove and the grit of the sound that he was working on when we were writing the song. It was me and Plain Scales that wrote this record.
Right.
And so it was just fun. It was fun to start the album. I mean, I was tired, I ain't gonna lie, because we were touring. We are just
Right.
going from one show to the next, and we were nonstop. But we needed to work on some new music, and we started.
Yeah. And then on that album, I just spoke to Slim from 112 probably a couple of weeks ago, and he was raving about the song you guys did together, Top
Yeah,
of the
that's
Line.
my boy. That's my
Yeah.
brother right there.
Yeah. And then, of course, the record that you guys did with B. Cox and Adonis, Priceless. Another one, a great
Yes,
story. Like, just take me through that song.
man. Adonis was such an amazing songwriter to work with, and it was fun, man, to just be in the studio and watch this dude just go in the studio in the booth and work.
Yeah.
His vocal ability, man, is just ridiculous. I learned a lot from Adonis. I learned a lot from Adonis and from B. Cox. These guys were already known for writing. Adonis was already known for writing big hits, and he
Yeah.
was already known for working a lot with Usher and stuff. So Um, it was just kind of like surreal to me, like, oh my gosh, I'm working with Adonis, I'm working with B Cox, like, you know, this is another great you know, adventure for me on this album. And you know, I was super disappointed on the fact that Columbia did not use that song as a single,
Yeah.
because I felt like on this album, Priceless, a lot of records, great records, got away.
Yeah. I think
And
so too.
you know, we had so many great songs to be used as singles, but I don't know what happened. I think it was during the whole change of the
Yeah.
industry, and when
Yeah.
Apple Music came in, iTunes, I should say, came in, and it totally flipped everybody out. And now it was more of a singles deal when
Yep.
it came down to music, you know, and more than the albums. But another great song was "If He Can't Be,"
Yep.
you know,
Great one.
that I
Yeah.
actually wrote it with Ryan Tedder. If he
Wow.
can't be what you need. I mean, such a great record. That was another one that got away. And of course, the one that we were talking about right now was Slim from 112,
Yeah.
you know, top of the line. It was written with him and with Plain Skills. Plain Skills produced it as well. And you know, this album was so fun for me to also put together, because I was getting more, you know, features, and you know, with some people that I looked up to, you
Yeah.
know, as I was listening and growing up with R&B. So Priceless was just, man, another classic album. You know, it's just a priceless album.
Yeah. Can't forget about the Bone Thugs collaboration as well.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. See, there's so many great things that we
Yeah.
did, that it's like so hard, you know, to put it all together. You know, working with Crazy Bone and Lazy Bone
Mhm.
on the song that we had, Never Let You Down, Never Let
Yeah.
You Down, Down, Never Let You Down, Girl. I mean, it was so surreal to work with them as well, and
Yeah.
just to know that I had them on my album, and such, you know, hip hop legends as
Yeah.
well, hip hop artists that you know, changed the game for the rap game. I mean, the way that they were rapping, they were singing at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, it made, you know, artists like R. Kelly
Yeah.
go and do these kind of rhythmic melodies with the
Yeah.
songs that they were writing and putting out.
Hmm.
So Bone Thugs and Harmony were definitely a big, you know, it was a big feature on this album, Priceless.
Amazing. Now, Frankie, I got to ask, because as you're putting out these English albums, you're also putting out Spanish albums very
Yeah.
close to one another. Like, what was that like for you? Like, that must have been a crazy grind.
Well, you know, to be able to do both English and Spanish, you know, we were always trying to utilize, you know, both markets,
Yeah.
in everything that we would do. We just wanted to maximize on all possibilities.
Yeah.
You know, when it came down to these albums, and you know, it was very tiring to go from, you know, MTV, and then go to Despierta America in Miami, and then keep going and doing those kinds of, you know, different things. But it was fun. I think, if anything, it was something that, you know, as an artist, it made me stand out from a lot of the artists
Right.
that were out back then. And you know, I couldn't I mean, I couldn't complain, man. I was traveling so much, you know,
Yeah.
going from one English radio station to the Spanish radio station. Okay, Frankie, you're gonna have to speak Spanish on all this interview now, and you know,
Right.
you have to kind of do like the switch, you know, and focus only on the Spanish. And you know, okay, then tomorrow we're going to other station that, you know, you have to speak nothing but English. Um, but you know, it was always a cool experience, you know, going back
Right.
and forth with both markets, you know, and
Yeah.
doing well in both, you know.
Yeah. And so after that, you transition over, you go the independent route. And like I said, the thing I admire about you is you never stopped grinding. You've been putting out albums, you've been putting out music, you've been touring. Like, what's the biggest thing that you've taken away in your independent journey as an artist?
Oh man, I think as doing things independently, I feel more in charge
Yeah.
of my own projects. I feel more at ease, with the way that I handle the projects and the way that I put out my music now. I mean, it was definitely a very different feeling from the major going into the whole independent thing. Not that it was a step down, or
Sure.
not that it was, you know, I don't know how to put this, but not that it was slowing me down at all, because
Right.
the work has always been there. The releasing of music has always happened. But it was definitely a big change. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't have the big staff anymore focusing on your artwork and then focusing on who's going to direct
Mhm.
your video
Right.
and booking your flights and booking your hotel. Now you're going to have to kind of do this all by yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that really hit me
Yeah.
hard, because I had to be this one guy to
Yeah.
do basically almost everything,
Hmm.
from being creative to figuring out concepts for my songs to being in the studio recording and producing, to you name it, all of the above.
Right.
So that was kind of crazy, for me, and experiencing that. But I learned a
Yeah.
lot, and I think that whole entire situation, because now today I'm more in control, I'm more in order,
Yeah.
and more focused on how I'm doing things independently. Because I've never stopped. Like you said, I've never stopped. People come up to me in the streets whenever I'm out and about, and they always ask me like, "Hey man, when are you putting out new music?" I said, "Man, I've always been putting out new music." I
Right.
go, "How are you not checking your Apple Music or your Spotify's?" I go, "You got to
Right.
check. You got to go
Yeah.
out there and check." You know.
Yeah. Because I mean, like being an artist is just like being an athlete. You got to continue to perfect your craft, which you've done. Happy Perez has done that as well. He's doing major things with Janae Eichel,
Yep.
Miguel, all these guys. So like your camp, you guys have continued to work, and it's admirable.
Thank you. I think it's something that's been, um, so engraved in our minds and our hearts, that we just continue to work. We've never stopped.
Yeah.
Aside from all the changes in the industry, and even all the new artists that are coming out,
Yeah.
like, we've been able to stay relevant. We've been able to stay idle to our fans, even through this pandemic. Like, we have things like these virtual concerts that we're able to have.
No.
Even what we're doing right now with this interview with you,
Yeah.
doing things virtually, that keep our fans informed, that keep our people, in the know of what's happening with our careers and what's happening with our music. So it's definitely a cool thing to experience, going through all the virtual stuff, and with these social medias that have kept us idle, to our
Right.
fans.
Yeah, absolutely. So Frankie, we're almost out of time here, but what are you working on right now? I know you're working on a project, so what's coming up?
So I'm working on a new album, and this is going back to the R&B vibes, the R&B
Mm.
flavor.
Okay.
The album is called Back to Us,
Mm.
and right now I'm in the process of, finishing a few of the songs that I just started. I want to release the first single, which I believe is a song called "With You,"
Mm.
featuring my very good friend Rasby from B2K.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
and my son and I actually produced this. So my son is now involved with me, putting together some songs for this new album, Back to Us. And if God wills it, man, I want to release the album by Christmas time. If for whatever reason we don't, then the next you know moment that I would probably take advantage of is the Valentine's holiday,
Right.
and in releasing this album, because this album has some really, really cool. You'll be surprised at what you're gonna hear. I mean, I'm probably about 7 or 8 songs in on the
Right.
album that are very, very, very unique, I should say.
Right. Mm.
But
Yeah.
the majority is original material.
Oh
So
wow.
stay tuned to that.
Any hints on what those remakes will be?
Well, um, I don't want to give it away. I don't
It's
want
all
to give it
good.
away because there's some really, really crazy, like, you know, stuff that you probably wouldn't even imagine. Like, what is
Oh
Frankie
wow.
doing? But I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. It's a whole new kind of vibe for me,
Hmm.
and it has a lot to do with live instrumentation. So
That's
it's you're gonna hear basically a live band behind me. That's all I'm
wow.
gonna say.
Hey, I'm not going to complain about live instrumentation, but Frankie, that's all that we had for you. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
um, well, I have an album in Spanish. It's called Canciones que Recuerdo, songs I remember, that I released back in May. That if they haven't, if the fans don't know about it, go check it out, go listen to it. It's a lot of, you know, traditional, because, you know, I love to go back to my Spanish roots
Right.
as well. So it's a lot of, you know, songs from, you know, the 50s, the 60s, the
Mhm.
70s. It's a standard album that I put together with my business partner Charles Chavez. Songs from artists like Jose, songs from even a Frank Sinatra song that I
Mhm.
covered. I did My Way in Spanish, and it's entitled A Mi
Wow.
Manera. So there's a lot of beautiful, beautiful love songs that are a part of this album. A lot of heartbreak as well, you know, in
Yep.
Spanish, songs that were really, really huge, huge records, classics.
Sure.
So I would encourage, you know, everybody who loves, you know, some good Spanish love songs to go listen to this album. It's called Canciones que Recuerdo, songs I remember, and I'm gonna guarantee that you guys are gonna love it. So, you know, go check it out.
Amazing, man. Well, Frankie, keep us posted on the new album. We're definitely here to support. Just keep us posted, man. We'll be in touch.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
All right, man. You take care and be
Nice
safe out
seeing
there.
you, bro. All right,
Yeah.
take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.